I'm finally doing cooking content on this show that's supposed to be about cooking, and I'm doing it with Steph. Is she on camera? I can't tell.
Yep.
Okay.
Good work, Steven.
Yay! And we're probably also recording the podcast that killed itself today, maybe.
Woo!
Let's
That's
try
a noise
this.
people make.
Well, it's now in the Oxford English Dictionary. I think it counts.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so we are doing chocolate creme brulee today. It's delicious. And it's pretty easy. I don't know why. Basically, in this case, it's a chocolate egg custard with some caramelized sugar on top. That may sound really difficult, but it's really, really easy. Mm-hmm. So let's get to it. One key thing about cooking, people. Remember to wash your fucking hands. I'm not kidding on this one. And I'm not talking about, oh, Mum said it's time for dinner. I'm talking about you're going to cook.
You're touching things that people will consume.
Especially in this case, raw egg. Good way to kill someone.
Sanitation is key.
20 minutes, hot water, soap, 20 seconds, not 20 minutes. I don't want you to kill your hands, sorry.
I don't know where your towels are. Found one.
Over there.
And then you dry thoroughly.
And done. So as previously stated, we are working with raw eggs here. Steph is currently separating the 4 eggs that we're going to be using in this recipe.
And this one broke a little bit. Yay, I'm doing really well today.
Yeah, she has so far completely failed. Oh god, don't let any of that yolk get in there because we are using this white for something, so if you're watching this video at home and plan to make this, don't make...
I promise I'm usually much more competent than this.
Yeah, wait a week if you want to make this because, unless you have a plan for whites, because we're going to show you something else to do with whites next week. So, for this recipe, what we're doing is just separating the 4 egg yolks, oh god, there's egg, into a separate bowl. Wow! I guess just being on camera makes this much worse.
Yep.
So while she's doing that, I'm going to go work with...
I don't like your eggs.
Yeah. These eggs might be like a day old. So while she's doing that, we're going to be... You're failing! We're going to be working with the cream. This recipe is going to call for 1 cup of half and half and 1 cup of whipping cream. Yay, product placement for Ralph's. So... we're going to be pouring all of that right into there and heating it up, and I'll show you the rest in a little bit. After Steph's done with the eggs. So, the cup of half and half and cup of heavy cream are now sitting happily in this giant small saucepan.
Success!
Yes, she has managed to only break 2 yolks of the 4. Although that doesn't really matter, it's actually kind of helpful. We have it under high heat until it begins to boil, and once it begins to boil, we'll come back to it. It is cream, so it boils pretty quickly. So, while we're waiting for the cream to boil, eventually, Steph is currently whisking together the 4 egg yolks along with 2.5 tablespoons of sugar, because we have half this recipe down from 1/3 of a cup. Go, math skills. We don't completely fail. We're not high school dropouts yet. Wait, we already finished high school.
We're high school graduates, Steve.
Woohoo!
High five!
Go fail on camera, since I think I was still looking directly at the yolk. Okay, cream needs to boil faster. You're a track. And this is what happens if you forget about the cream and let it boil over. It turns into foam. Although, not deadly foam yet. If it had gone a little bit longer, we would be in serious trouble. Nope, I got it. And turn the heat down a little bit. And now comes the fun part. So we have... 4 ounces of semi-sweet chocolate, which we are just going to throw in here and then whisk so that it doesn't completely stick to the bottom and blends thoroughly. Now, we kind of cheated with this because the actual recipe calls for chopped chocolate because it assumes you're using a baker's bar, but we are just using chips. It makes it a little bit harder to measure if you don't have an ounce scale, but it's not entirely impossible. And now we just have to whisk it till it gets completely blended. Okay, so chocolate has completely melted into the cream, taken it off the heat so nothing burns, and now we have to slowly add it to the eggs via tempering so that we don't accidentally cook the eggs. First step in that is...
scramble.
Yeah.
Technically we're cooking the eggs. They're gonna have heat.
What we don't... just take the heated whisk to bring the eggs slightly up to temperature, and then slowly begin adding some of your chocolate cream mixture. I would say about half, and then whisk ridiculously.
Vigorously, you mean?
Yeah. Sorry, there's chocolate falling on my toe, so
Sounds delicious.
Yes, for future reference, wear shoes, unlike me.
I don't know how many times I've almost chopped my toes off because I dropped knives like nobody's business.
I've almost chopped fingers off, but no toes yet. Okay,
I've only almost chopped off a finger once. Evidence. You can tell there's a big crack in that nail from a week ago.
I only did it once and in a culinary class, actually. Don't even remember why. I think I was chopping onions. The wrong way. That's why you always chop them the right way.
In case you're curious, it smells like chocolate.
It smells very much like chocolate, and you have to whisk it. I don't remember the word. I've already forgotten, but I'm so focused on whisking. As fast as you can to try
Vigorously?
Vigorously. To try to cool it down and prevent the
eggs from scrambling.
Well, it's still cooking, technically, but you don't want them to cook right now.
You need to emulsify them into the mixture.
Yes.
Rather than have bits of scrambled eggs in your custard, because that's texturally just really offensive.
Yes. So, now we have to pour the mixture into our custard bowls.
Ramekins?
Yes, they're called ramekins. The recipe, for some reason, calls them custard bowls or tarts or something like that. And Steph is doing it because I absolutely fail at this for some unapparent reason. And it's a very simple process. Just pour it into the bowls and try not to...
Approximately equally, so
yeah.
Start with less, go back.
You can always add more, you can never take out.
You can, but it's really
messy
but it
and
looks
gross.
Stupid.
And... It's a good way to screw up your presentation. Oh, there's a puppy! Yeah. Other thing, if you're cooking this, especially when you're doing it with the hot, burning cream, remove all pets and small children. Started to say small pet children things.
That too.
Yep. So, looks like we're going to end up with a little bit of extra cream, which I guess we can just eat because it is freaking delicious.
So should I just stop now?
Try to balance it out a little bit more. Okay, now comes the very, very easy part. We just have to move these ramekins, which are not yet burning hot, over to this pan. Now, so this is actually the trademark weirdness about how you cook creme brulee. If you could handle the camera for a second. You have to fill the pan that they're cooking in, which is farting me, you bastard. Oh.
Swearing in the kitchen with Steven.
Yes.
I just named your show.
Oh, I hope not. It's supposed to be about the show Feast and Famine, so I need to make some kind of magic card reference. You fill it about...
halfway up the sides of the ramekins.
With water so that instead of just baking, there's also steam in the oven while it's cooking. And that should be good. So, now we just have to put it straight in the oven. We have had the oven preheated to 300 degrees this entire time we've been cooking. 10 minutes should be fine unless you have a good oven. Ours is terrible. As you can see, it's probably about 3 times older than I am. And...
oven versus Steven, just for comparison.
Come to think of it, it's probably 5 times older than I am. It's been here since...
It's retro.
Yeah, it's been here since this house was built, and this house is so old, its deed still technically says people of many different nationalities are not allowed on the property unless they are slaves. And you just slide it in.
Burbank.
Yeah. If you can hear it, you can actually hear... well, I can. The water start to begin boiling a little bit. And you just close it up and cook for about 50 minutes. Okay, so timer went off, and we're getting the creme brulee out of the oven, and that actually looks fairly good. Yeah, that's pretty good. You may notice it, don't burn yourself in the oven, jiggling around a little bit, because it is still not actually solid.
Set,
yeah, well, it becomes fairly solid. It's still sort of gelatinous. Also, be warned that the water is still very hot.
And the pan is hot, and the creme brulee and the ramekins
it's all
are
very
hot.
Now, I'm not actually going to show this because it's very boring, but once this cools down, you need to shift your actual creme brulees, not the whole pan, into the fridge so that it can set, and you set it for about 2 hours, and we actually won't be setting it for 2 hours, we'll be setting it for a little bit less time, so we can show you the fun final step before eating. So, we'll see you guys a little bit later. Hello and welcome to day 2 of creme brulee baking. Sadly, Steph is not here, because it's 10 in the morning. Technically, according to the recipe I'm using, you're supposed to let the creme brulee chill overnight. You don't really have to. About an hour is more than enough, but since the other thing we're making, which you'll find out about next week, with those egg whites. If you don't already have a plan for those egg whites, don't make this recipe yet. Since it's godforsaken hour in the morning, and the other thing needs to come out at godforsaken hour in the morning. So we're just going to show the fun part of making creme brulee, the part that I really, really like, and I think everyone likes. It's also really simple. Good way to lose fingers, though. Here we have the unassuming creme brulee, and here we have sugar. Very simple process, just drizzle it over. Okay, not drizzle, sort of pour. And then you just kind of shake it out to try and make it even. If you really want to try to impress someone, you can just set a cookie cutter on top of this. Or, if you're really impressive, you can sort of stencil the sugar into a design. I think there was a dog doing something very interesting. In case you haven't realized, the dogs here are very silly. So, now you see that big thing of sugar in the center? That one is actually going to become extra burnt, but that's not necessarily bad. But if you want to try the cookie cutter trick, it's very simple. You just rest it down in the center of the creme brulee, fill that in with the sugar, shake it around, take the cookie cutter out, and boom, you have your shape. Now comes the hard part. Sort of. This is a blowtorch that I have already spent about 5 minutes trying to get to the right heat and length. This is also me holding a camera designed for a right-handed person in my left hand because I need my right hand for this. Now, this is the very simple part. All you have to do is just sort of circle along the sugar with the blowtorch, not letting the flame you can actually see touch the sugar if at all possible. And this is going to be a long process. Once it starts, see, now you can see it starting to happen. You see the sugar, it smells right now like it's burning, but it actually is doing that. It's caramelizing. Especially this wad in the center is going to become really caramelized. Caramelization is just the process by which sugar burns and becomes that sort of burnt orangish color that we know is the color of caramel. And now the torch is going to hate me again. The bastard always fights with me. It usually takes on more of a rich flavor than traditional sugar. It also, in this case, very often takes on a maple sort of flavor. Especially if you use brown sugar, then the traditional just sweetness of the sugar usually dies down and is replaced almost entirely with the molasses maple flavor of normal sugar, of brown sugar. So I'm going to finish the rest of this off camera because it's going to take a little while. See you guys in a little bit. Now then, the sugar has completely caramelized, and right after the sugar caramelizes, if you use a blowtorch, not a broiler, if you use a broiler, it's a completely different recipe. The recipe in the description will be based on using a broiler, because not everyone has a blowtorch available to them. If you use a blowtorch, the sugar is actually best to eat almost immediately afterwards, because the sugar hardens up. Look. See, I don't know if you can hear that, but it's actually just sort of hitting the top of it. Especially that wad right there in the center. So this is what makes the creme brulee so good. And what happens is you just need to, like, break the sugar, get a nice big scoop, come here, with sugar and mousse all in one bite, and go. Okay, because you saw that custard being made. There's not very much sugar in there. But this stuff gives it some nice sugary flavor. It's a great combination, and something I would seriously suggest that you make if you need, either you have a chocoholic friend or just someone you need to impress. Great for girlfriend or boyfriend because it's really simple to make, it's really, really impressive, and it's just delicious. Especially when you get like one of these big chunks right here with the super caramelized sugar. And you can see there, it's almost just like pudding. Sorry, this plus what's on next week's show, which I'm eating at the same time, might just kill me. If you do make both of these at the same time, this and secret ingredient for next week, at the same time, Bring some milk or a ton of friends to share them with, although you may not want to share this one. Oh, excuse me, I'm going to finish the rest of this. See you later. Okay, so chocolate has completely melted. Turned off the heat so it doesn't burn or anything. Oh no, there's a giant dog coming inside. Look at the giant dog! This is going to have to be a blooper.